Hi there. Welcome to another one of my Sunday shows, and thank you for tuning in so early in the morning on Sunday if you're here in the Pacific. And what I love is that I hear from people from all over the world. So please feel free to put in the comments where you're from. I just love to see from how far away you tune in. So today our main topic is going to be forgiveness, but I wanted to talk about a couple of other things before we dive into that. Let's start with something fun. One of the things I realized when I came back from the other side, when I came back from being dead, when I came back from being dead, I realized that when we are here in the physical, we are supposed to kind of immerse ourselves in the physical and enjoy life and have fun. So how many of you have guilty pleasures? I'm sure all of you do. But one of the things I've noticed is that people who kind of think they're ultra spiritual, they tend to deny that they do have pleasures in life. There are things that we love to do, and things that we're passionate about, and things that we get great pleasure from being here in the physical. Because, when we're in the spiritual side, when we're on the other side, we are purely spiritual beings. When we're here, we're not purely physical beings. We are physical and spiritual both. A lot of people live as though they're purely physical. I often talk about our medical paradigm as only dealing with illness from purely the physical, whereas we need to look at the whole, which includes our spiritual self. But a lot of people who consider themselves ultra spiritual tend to renounce the physical and only focus on the spiritual, and they forget that they also have a physical body, and the physical body wants to feel pleasure and joy and things like that. So I'd love to hear what some of your guilty pleasures are, and keep them clean because it's a public platform. So a few of mine, just for the heck of it. So many of you know I love to binge watch TV serials. And these TV serials are just for fun, have nothing to do with the work I do. And some of my favorite TV serials, which I've actually mentioned before, one of my favorite ones was The Good Wife. I loved it. I loved every season, and I was sad when it was over. Another one was Manifest. I enjoyed one called Project Blue Book. Another one was The Indian Doctor. The one I'm currently watching is This Is Us. And I know many of you are probably watching that. I love that. And I'm hooked. And I can watch for hours and hours and hours. And that is my way of just unwinding and chilling out. But I have a few other indulgences. And many of you have complimented the scarves I wear. Oh, and before I get deeper into this, I want you to write in the comments, what are your guilty pleasures? And then I'm going to ask Danny to read some of them out, because then I don't feel so bad about having all these guilty pleasures. So I would love to hear from you, and please put in the comments, what are the things that you indulge in? And sometimes you just get carried away, and you totally forget yourself when you're indulging in it. And so another one is, many of you have commented on the scarves or the shawls I wear, and you comment on how colorful they are. I have a passion for shawls and scarves from all over the world. Wherever I travel, I will buy scarves, and I particularly love the ones from India. And I have so many, they're bursting out of my cupboard, and I am embarrassed of how many I have, but I can't help myself. Even though I have more than enough, every time I see a beautiful one, I just can't resist. And recently, I had a photo taken. In fact, the photo is courtesy of Teresa Glavin Klein, and I had a photo taken, which I'll share with you, where she tried to capture all my shawls and scarves in the photo. But I think that I have more than even what could fit in the photo. I'm going to ask Danny to pull that photo up. So there's the picture. And we even draped the TV behind me with one of my scarves. But that photo, even that photo, doesn't do it justice. She tried to capture them all, but some of them were buried. So that is one of my guilty pleasures. I do try to buy from conscious manufacturers, that employ that pay a fair wage, fair trade, and all of that. But scarves and shawls are a weakness. Another guilty pleasure of mine, for some reason, I love sneakers. I'm too embarrassed to take a photo of my sneakers. I love colorful sneakers. I just love comfortable shoes and sneakers. I should start wearing sneakers on stage. I rarely do because I don't feel fully dressed up when I'm wearing sneakers, but I need to really be myself in that area and wear shawls and sneakers. In my head, they don't go together. There's kind of a dissonance that wearing a beautiful shawl and then a pair of sneakers kind of doesn't go. But that's my next thing that I need to step up and be able to do, is to wear a pretty shawl and sneakers. So those are my indulgences. I do have a little bit of a love for purses, but we won't go down that road yet. And I'm going to turn to Danny to ask if anyone has posted anything yet. Has anyone not yet? So I'm going to give you time to share your indulgences and your little guilty pleasures. So those are mine. I'm admitting them. I'm embarrassed at how weak I get when I see a beautiful shawl or a beautiful pair of sneakers or even a beautiful purse. So, but there you have it. And it's particularly in my travels where I think, oh my God, I'm not going to see that back home. I need to get it now. So if any of you feel that way or relate to that, please let me know so I don't feel so bad. Now, I wanted to kick off today with a letter. You know, I have often said to you that if you want to share, and if you want to share a photo, if you have a photo of your guilty pleasure, if it's a photo of your collection of something that you can't resist collecting or getting or sharing, then please send the photo. You can upload it in the comments. And we're broadcasting on Facebook and YouTube right now. Yay. But you can send it in if you're listening to if you're listening to this not live, you can send it in via email, and Danny is going to punch up the email address. It's cup@teawithanita.com. Send your email to cup@teawithanita.com. Send your photos of your guilty pleasures, and if I don't push them up this week, I will push them up next week, because I really want to see what you guys indulge in, because then I can feel a little more normal. But then normal is overrated, isn't it? We all know that, and we're probably not that normal. So I wanted to start with an important question that somebody wrote in. And the reason I wanted to start with this is because she sounds like she's in a lot of fear. So this is what she writes. I won't say her name in case she wanted to stay anonymous. And she writes, I write on behalf of my husband and myself, and we have a question. We contacted a spiritual healer to help me cope with my challenge. And she speaks a little bit about having a lump in her breast and anxiety. And so the spiritual healer said something very scary. The spiritual healer said that her husband has a demonic DNA and he has no soul, and he is low vibration and unable to reincarnate. According to her, we should sleep separately because he is the one that is making her sick. Now, this is her own, so the writer, her evaluation of her husband, though, is that she says, we've been married for 30 years and my problems appeared only recently after having been forced to quit my job due to bullying. At the same time, my husband is on a very high level of consciousness. He has always been on a developmental path since the 1980s and is a great fan and follower of Wayne Dyer, and in general is very loving, accepting, and a great person towards me and all people and nature and the world in general. He also supports me in my development, and I owe him my interest in spirituality. And it is partly owing to him that I found you. So what the healer says does not make sense. Nevertheless, we don't know how to deal with it. It is all so scary, and he is very confused. We wish we had never contacted that person. So I want to say to you that you are right in that what she said doesn't make sense, and that you should never have contacted that person. But now that you have, she has put into your mind what I would call a thought virus. And you have to actually dismiss everything she said. And what she has said is extremely dangerous. And this is what I want you to know. When a healer or a teacher or somebody gives you a message that disempowers you and makes you feel fearful, it is not a true message. It is not coming from the other side. I need you to know this. To the person that wrote this in and to anyone else that's dealing with messages like this, they are not true messages. Messages from the other side are very comforting. If there is something scary that is around you that they need to tell you of, they tell you a way to get out of it. In other words, their guidance is very constructive, not destructive. Their guidance is very loving and not fearful. It will envelope you in a feeling of, this is the way out of my situation, not in a way of, oh my God, I've got this going on. What do I do about it? No, that is completely the opposite of what guidance needs to do. What you received is something that was irresponsible and completely the opposite of what any healer or psychic or anyone should be doing. That person should not be doing what they're doing. They should stop doing what they're doing. Nobody is born without a soul. That is not true, especially since you say your husband has been with you 30 years. And it sounds to me like the reason for your anxiety and the challenge, the health challenge you're dealing with, is to do with the bullying in your job. It's to do with the bullying. It's to do with being squeezed out of leaving your job. And so the topic I have today will help you with that area where you need to release the person from your field who has been bullying you. You need to release them from your field so you can move on. So I want to tell you that, and I want to tell you that if you're getting fearful messages from anyone, including if you're dealing with an illness and if you get a fearful message from a doctor, that's also irresponsible. So I do want to say that anybody in a position of power who gives fearful messages are being irresponsible, because fear is actually the bigger problem. It really is. So even when a doctor gives you a fearful diagnosis, that's not responsible. They think they're being responsible, but it's not. You need to give solutions. You need to give people a way out of the predicament they're in, not one that keeps them embedded in fear. You need to give people hope. Always give people hope. Anybody that removes hope should not be practicing, whether healer, psychic, teacher, doctor, anybody. Anybody that does not see hope in you, they should be fired from what they're doing. And this includes counselors, anybody, even healers. The healer, the teacher, the doctor needs to be able to see the person as being healed if they are going to help treat that person. They need to be able to see it, because what you see as a teacher, healer, doctor is what you are projecting on onto that person, because they are giving their power to you. So as a healer, teacher, doctor, whatever, person in power, you need to see the person or people healed. If you're a teacher of a class, you need to see the class as succeeding. You have no business doing what you're doing if you see them all as losers or sick or dying. You have no business doing what you're doing. So there's my little piece on that. I've made those mistakes. I have followed people who have made me feel fearful, and out of fear, I continued to listen to them and follow them, and it led me down a dark road into dark nights of the soul and finally into death. So don't do that. Now today, what I want to talk about is forgiveness, and it ties into what I just said about releasing such people from your field. Anybody that keeps you in fear, and also people who have taken away your hope, or people who have bullied you, as in this case of this lady who was squeezed out of her job due to bullying, which is more likely the cause of what you're going through and not your husband, as your psychic said. So it leads to that. And the topic title is forgiveness. A lot of people write in and they say to me that they have been a victim of abuse, of bullying, all kinds of things, whether it's from parents, relationships, bosses, blah, blah, blah. And they want to move on, and they want to be able to forgive the person who has abused them and treated them like a victim. Many of you even write in and say you want to forgive them and you want to love them unconditionally, but at the same time, you start to judge yourself for being unable to do so. So this is a topic that comes up. So let me dive right in and dissect this topic. So when you are a victim of something, whether it's of abuse, or you're still in an abusive relationship, or a victim of bullying, or anything like that, and you want to forgive, the first thing I ask you to do is to heal yourself first. Don't even worry about forgiving yet. Make sure that you yourself are taken care of and that you are not judging yourself for having been unable to forgive them. So watch your own language and just say and allow yourself to say things to yourself like, okay, I need to take care of myself. I've been a victim of abuse. Give yourself a hug. Be kind and gentle to yourself. Don't judge yourself for having attracted that situation to you. Don't judge yourself for having lost your job or squeezed out of your job. Don't judge yourself for having been trapped or being duped. If somebody fooled you into something and you feel stupid and dumb, stop judging yourself. So number one is to heal yourself first, and you do that by stop judging yourself and start to become your own best friend. Start to learn to love yourself. And if you want to learn to love yourself, you have to listen to my first video of this series, which is from about a little over a month ago. It's the episode 1 of Tea with Anita about self-love made simple or self-love made easy. Watch that one. But step number 1 is to love yourself and heal yourself. Step number 2 is when you start to get ready to take your power back. So step 1 is heal yourself first without trying to forgive, without judging yourself for not forgiving. Step number 2 is take your power back. What do I mean by taking your power back? I mean, you need to decide that you no longer want to be a victim of this situation. So you need to kind of say, okay, now I realize that I have given myself to this situation for too long. I've been a victim of this situation. Now, some people have been a victim of a situation for many years, even after the situation has long left them. And what do I mean by this? Maybe you were abused as a child and you allow that to still dictate your life today. So you have to realize that I am not a victim. I have decided I am no longer a victim of all my past hurts, all my past abuse, all of that. And that is a decision that you make, because you can either live from the place of victimhood or you can live from the place of victorhood, where you are now the victor and you take charge of your life. And taking charge of your life and taking responsibility for your life does not mean you are blaming the victim. It means you've decided to take your power back from all those people that took their power from you. You've decided to take it back, and it means taking responsibility to the point where you need to also take responsibility to where you have allowed your victimhood to play into things that have not served you. And I hope that makes sense. There are areas where you may have in your life used your victimhood, where you feel, oh, I've been a victim of this abuse, and you use that victimhood to interact in the world. You use that as a filter for all your experiences. There comes a time where if you really want to take charge of your life, you need to make a decision that I am no longer a victim. Maybe at the time when I was being abused, I might have been too young, I didn't have a choice. Maybe I was not young, but I was naive. I trusted, I believed. But now, in order to take charge of my life, I need to realize the part I play in being a victim. And nobody, as an adult, so as a child, you can be a victim. As an adult, as a full-fledged adult, Nobody can force you into a relationship or a situation that you don't want to be in. And again, I don't want to blame the victim. I'm not saying that if you got raped or anything, it's your fault. It's not. You may have been threatened. It may have been violent. But once you're out of that situation, taking charge of your life becomes your responsibility. If you're waiting for the people who victimized you to come and apologize and set you free, that's not going to happen. That's probably not going to happen. And what ends up happening is that means that you not only were a victim during that time when they were victimizing you, but you end up giving the rest of your life to them as well. And sometimes we do that even when we were abused as children. We live as abused adults, and we need to heal that. It becomes so important to heal that and do whatever you need to do. And even if you need to see a counselor or a therapist or somebody to heal the past hurts, it needs to be a decision that comes from you. Somebody who I know who has a lot of great videos on healing abuse is Teal Swan. You could check her out. She does a lot of great videos on healing abuse. So, but there are lots of people you can look up, but heal the abuse and take your power back. Taking your power back means realizing I am an adult and I decide what happens in my life and what doesn't. It means that you are in a power position instead of the weakness position, and it's a decision, and it's a realization that I have given this abuse situation enough of my life, enough of my time, and now I have decided to take ownership of my life. And it also means that you are aware where you played into that situation. There might be times where now that you look back, you might realize that, oh, I knew, it could be maybe your partner cheated on you and you stayed in the relationship for longer than you should have. And so you can look back and say, oh my gosh, I knew something was going on, but I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to deal with it. So you kind of took part in that. You allowed it to continue because you didn't want to deal with it. Things like that. So it's about taking back responsibility and saying, I don't stand for that anymore. I love myself too much. I own my life. It's mine, and I decide where people are going to meet me. That's where loving yourself is so important, because you raise your energy, you raise your frequency, and you only allow people who meet you at your frequency to come into your life. So that was step 2. It was about taking your power back. Step 3, now you need to learn how to release this person and forgive them. Now, step 2 and 3 can be interchanged. Some of you might feel better doing step 3 first. Some of you might feel better doing step 2 first. So I had trouble as to deciding which one I should put first. But let me tell you step 3, and you can decide which one you want to do first. Step 3 is what I call being ready to forgive. And forgiveness does not mean condoning their behavior or condoning what they did to you. It does not mean allowing them to continue to do it. No. Forgiveness to me means releasing them from your field. It means releasing their energy from your field. To me, if I could use a different word for forgiveness, it would be releasing. To me, forgiveness does not mean that, oh, what you did is fine. No, it means I release you from my field, because you can't press a button on me anymore. You're not a hot button for me. You're not someone who affects my life anymore. You're not going to affect my future anymore, because I have released you from my field. Even if it's something as strong as somebody who has maybe even, and I have people come and tell me this, that they know the person who killed or murdered a family member, and they find it so hard to forgive them. I know that would be really hard to forgive. But the point is, you're not condoning what they did. And the system is going to take care of of punishing them in the way that it should. But you need to release them from your field so that you can continue living and you can continue carrying the legacy of your deceased loved one in a pure and beautiful way. So for me, forgiveness really means releasing and removing their energy from your field and removing their energy from the cells in your body. Because if you continue to hold that, you're doing it really for you, not for them. If you continue to hold that toxic energy of feeling abused in your field and then in your cells, like the energy of bullying that the writer wrote in about, that is what messes with your cells. That is what causes anxiety and may sometimes lead to illness. It's holding that energy in your cells. So how do I release this kind of energy? If somebody has hurt me really badly, what I do to release it, well, first of all, I do the first thing, which is I don't judge myself for feeling hurt and for feeling bad and feeling all those things. And then the second thing I do is I decide that I'm going to take my power back. I'm not going to let them dominate my future, even though they hurt me and it was really bad. It set me back. But no, I'm not going to let them dominate my future. I'm going to use this as a lesson and a springboard and move forward. And so how do I release them? One of the exercises I do is that I sit quietly and I take some deep breaths. And I actually visualize that with every breath in, I'm actually breathing in pure, clean energy. And with every breath out, I am breathing out of my field and out of my cells any energy that contains that hurt, that pain, any of that. So I do that several times. I may sit and put on some music, and then I will do that. I will just think of that hurt. I will get to the core of that hurt. And then I will feel myself breathing that hurt out. So very often when we do deep breathing exercises, we're focused on the in-breath. For this exercise, I'm more focused on the out-breath. And I visualize dark energy going out with every out-breath. I visualize this energy that's hurting me. I visualize that going out, and I might do like a strong out-breath, like a deep out-breath. And I visualize myself expunging the energy of the hurt just coming out. And then I take a calm in-breath, which is nice, pure, clean breath, nice, pure, clean energy, calm in-breath, and then which is the cells that are hurting me, which is the energy of hurt, the energy of bullying, the energy of someone manipulating me. And I actually physically do this until my visual becomes completely clear. You can play with that visualization and do what works for you. It could be just purely visualization without the breathing. And if you have other ideas of different ways that you could just clear that, you can share that in the comments. And if I see any, I will read it out. But the main three things I want you to think about is that when you are feeling hurt, abused, hard done by, manipulated, and you're carrying that energy with you, then and you feel that you need to forgive that person or let that person go, remember, number one is to heal your feelings first. And healing them means accepting what you're feeling right now. That's part of healing. It's being okay with where you are. That is part of healing. That's a key part, which I should have said earlier. It's so healing means saying, okay, this is how I feel. I'm not going to judge it. So it means acceptance and feeling peace with what you're feeling. Number two is a decision to take your own power back. You may choose number two to be the one that is of releasing their energy. But I tend to do number two as a decision. Okay, I'm going to take my own power back. I no longer want to be a victim of this. I no longer want that in my energy field. And number three, now you're ready to forgive. And forgiveness means release. Once you have released them, and so the release exercise I use is one of breathing, breathing the energy, the bullying, abusive energy out with a strong breath, and gently breathing in clear, pure energy and filling yourself up with beautiful, clear, pure energy. And if it's been a deep abuse that you've had, it might take more than one session. Don't judge yourself. Always do it lovingly. Always do it with acceptance of where you are. Always be kind to yourself. And so in the case of the person who wrote in, you need to breathe out the energy of that healer, because she has planted a thought in your mind. And if it's still playing on your mind, if it's still causing fear, you need to clear her energy from your field so that you can get it out. You know, it's very easy for people to say, oh, don't think about it. Many of us can't help it when it plays on our mind. That's why it's good to have some kind of ritual that works for you to get it out of your field, out of your mind, out of your thought virus. It's like a virus that's in your field and you want to get it out. So those are my suggestions on how to get it out. And always be loving to yourself. Don't doubt yourself. Stop feeling that, oh, maybe they are right. No, if they implanted fear in you, they are not right. Nobody has the right to make you feel fearful, small, bullied. Nobody is born without a soul. We all have a soul. That's why we're here. If somebody did bully you and you're kind of thinking, how come that person doesn't have a soul, or how did that person abuse me? When you are in the right space, you don't need to forgive them too soon. You may not be ready, because if you forgive someone too soon, you may put yourself into the position of becoming a victim to them again. If you're too forgiving, you may be a doormat and you may put yourself in the position of being a victim again. This is why I suggest going through these 3 steps. After you've gone through the 3rd step and you want to figure out, okay, what makes them do what they do, you can start figuring out from a place where they have no impact on you anymore. Releasing them, forgiving them, releasing them to me means forgiving them. Forgiving them means they have no impact on you anymore. They could be right in front of you doing and saying the same things, and they have no impact on you anymore. They can't draw you into their web anymore. So until they get to that stage, I would say keep some space from them. And if they are someone like a parent who you have to visit, then keep doing that releasing exercise of breathing their energy out every time you have to be with them and every time they affect you in that way. Get to a space where you can release them and they no longer have an impact on you. Why do they do what they do? Because there's a part of them that they have not released. There's a part of them that has been victimized through their own hurt, their own abuse, their own victimhood, and this is the only way they know how. And some part of them is not functioning properly. Some part of them is broken. This is the only way they know how to treat you. But you don't have to fall prey to it. You're not doing them any favors by continuing to be their victim. The only way you can help them is by rising above it and becoming a victor, because then you become an inspiration for how it's done. If you allow yourself to continue to be a victim, you allow them to continue to perpetuate the situation. No, you're not blaming the victim by thinking that, but the best thing you can do for yourself is to love yourself and to become the victor and decide that you don't want to be around them until they change their behavior or until you have cleared it and released them enough to be able to be around them. It's your decision. It's your choice. You need to take that power back. And only when you take that power back are you able to impact other people, and they may learn from seeing you and how you do it. They're not going to learn anything as you continue to be their victim. So I hope that was helpful. And now I am going to turn to Danny to ask him if he's got any interesting things. It can be questions. It can be your guilty pleasures. anything like that. Anything interesting to share, Boo?
You know, there have been zillions and zillions of comments that have come through.
Oh, good. I like to hear that.
Yes. So let's see. There have been guilty pleasures of chocolates, shoes, purse,
Oh,
scarves,
chocolates. Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot to mention chocolates.
coffee mugs. Let me see. Travel. Let me
Oh,
see.
yeah, travel's good.
There is just so much stuff. And
Great. You guys are as bad, maybe worse than me. No, nobody's worse than me.
no, I don't think anybody would be.
No, they wouldn't.
No, not with the. Do you want to tell them how one of the shelves in your closet collapsed because
Oh
of
my
the,
God.
or did you not want that to go
Uh-oh.
public?
It's too late now. One of the shelves in my closet collapsed from the weight of stuff on it. I know, I'm so embarrassed. I had to call in, we live in a rented house, and I had to call my landlady and tell her to send the handyman. And there was just too much stuff on that shelf. It was the handbag shelf, one of the handbag shelves. Now my stuff kind of encroaches into Danny's closet, and he's not that happy about it, are you, Boo?
No comment.
My dream would be to have like this beautifully arranged cupboard. But you know, I do go through phases of doing the Marie Kondo thing. I really do. And I do give away a lot of my stuff from time to time. And so I have this kind of what I call a dissonance going on, because I actually don't like clutter. I like things like really neatly put, and I like space in my home, and I don't like clutter. So when things get over a certain amount, I do have to start giving them away. So there is that saving grace.
Another person has just written in on YouTube with their guilty pleasure.
Yes.
Maria says, "My guilty pleasure, tea with Anita every Sunday."
I can't complain about that one. I love it. Thank you. Aw, that's so sweet. And also, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions as well.
You know, there's a whole bunch of questions, but I think that as the querent has written them,
Yes.
right, you have psychically or energetically picked up on the questions, right, and you've no doubt answered them already.
Oh.
There's many, many questions about how do I deal with self-worth? How do I build up my self-worth?
So with self-worth, I would actually go back. I consider self-worth and self-love synonymous. And so I would go back to the exercise I did in episode 1 of Tea with Anita, which is self-love made easy. And in that one, I give you the longer version, but it really is about loving your soul. It's about realizing you're not just a physical body, you are more than a physical body. But it's embracing both. You know, one of the things I noticed is that, and I touched on this a little bit, is that traditionally spirituality has taught us that we're spiritual beings, like religions and all, and many people who are entrenched in many of the conventional, older spiritual teachings and religions tend to renounce the world and tend to become hermits, or they tend to be celibate and live off very little. And so basically they feel that they are purely a spiritual being, and anything off this world is not conducive to their spirituality. It's almost bad or evil, or we're not supposed to have attachments. And so they live almost as though we don't have a physical body with physical needs. We live as though the way we live on the other side, in a sense, in constant meditation. And then there are other people who live as though all we are physical beings. And so we're only indulging the physical. And when we get sick, we only deal with it from the physical. And so things like, for example, and that's how, you know, people like pharmaceuticals can sell stuff like, you know, like if you have stomach acid, this is what you take to heal your stomach acid so that you can keep eating the food like the pizzas and all the stuff that is causing your stomach acid, because you no longer feel it. So in other words, it's like we're living purely for indulging the physical. And we don't have to think of ourselves as a whole being. And you've seen those crazy ads where they tell you that take this so you don't feel this, so you don't feel acid reflux, so you can keep eating the junk food that caused that in the first place. So basically, what I'm trying to say is you have one extreme that live as though we're purely physical, and you have another extreme that live as though we're purely spiritual. What I want you to really be aware of is that we are both. That's a big lesson I learned when I was on the other side. I used to be afraid before my NDE I used to be afraid to completely embrace spirituality, because when you completely embrace spirituality in the traditional sense, you feel bad for doing things that are purely physical. And when you completely embrace physical life, you feel anything spiritual is woo-woo. So for too long, there's been like a divisiveness between the two sides. In actuality, we are both, and you have to realize we're both. And so our job is to walk that line of marrying the two. If you're going to live purely as a spiritual being, and renounce everything physical, you may as well not have been incarnated. The reason you came here is to express the physical as a spiritual being expressing the physical. You didn't come here to continue to live like you were living on the other side. You're going to do that when you go over there anyway. So that's why I say to people, live fully, love fully, find your joy fully, embrace life fully, laugh fully, like really completely live your life fully, and really, I guess, yeah, that's it. Be who you are, and be who you are fully. That's why you're here. But always realize that you are a spiritual being expressing through this physical body, and the physical is not all there is. And very often our illnesses, our anxieties, many of our illnesses, unless it's normal wear and tear of old age, but many of our premature illnesses is because we are not allowing ourselves to express ourselves fully. And that depletes our energy. That makes us small. And as we deplete our energy, we become more susceptible to things outside of us. Just one more quick thing. I want to touch on healthy foods and stuff like that. It's very important that you expand your energy. And healthy foods help you. But if you deplete your energy by suppressing yourself, living small, living fearfully, and then you eat healthy foods out of fear of illness, all you're doing is depleting your energy even more. The healthy foods don't help you if you're doing them out of fear. When you eat healthy foods, do it because you love yourself. Do it because it expands your energy. And when you expand your energy, even if you eat an ice cream or a chocolate, it's not going to affect you because you have reserves. Your body is resilient, and so you don't have to worry so much about food. I hope that made sense. And it looks like Danny had some other things, some other comments to share. We'll go with a couple more.
Well, I just was going to ask you, do you know how many countries people are tuning in from?
No, I'd love to know.
I don't know, but we have one comment which scrolled by already, but somebody basically says, let's see, is it konnichiwa or is it ohayo gozaimasu? She said, I'm watching from Japan,
wow,
and it's 2 a.m.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I don't know if the correct thing... She wrote hello, but that's in English. I'm guessing in Japanese it would either be ohayo gozaimasu or konnichiwa.
You do that well, almost like a native.
Yes.
Yes.
It comes from years of ordering sushi.
And then, of course, for the Chinese people, there's Neiho or Ni Hao. That's Mandarin or Cantonese. And
then, of course, in Australian, it's g'day.
G'day, mate.
Yeah.
And then there's Sawadee Ka.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yes.
Yeah, my God, you're multilingual.
And so are you.
We can go out and order Thai food.
And so, and just real quick before we finish, a lot of people, because Hong Kong has been my home for so many years, and Hong Kong is going through a lot of turbulence right now, and people do write in. A lot of people have asked me, would I comment about Hong Kong? So I just want to say that I am truly really sad by what's going on in Hong Kong. And you're not alone in what's happening, because there's unrest going on in a lot of places in the world. And it's no coincidence that it's happening in so many countries at the same time. There's unrest in the UK. There's also a lot of different kind of unrest here in the United States, political unrest, and of course huge amount of political unrest in Hong Kong and all these places. And I believe in Israel and lots of places are going through unrest. And really, my heart goes out to all of you, the people, the public, who have to deal with all this stuff, all this nonsense. What I want to say to you is don't allow yourselves to become divided with your fellow people. Try as far as you can to listen to people and to hear their different viewpoints. The issues, the way I see it, and I'm going to say it like I see it, the issues are with the governments and the politicians of all these countries. The problem is all our politicians, well, maybe not all, but many of the countries, our politicians, and I'm going to say it, they are a joke. They're absolutely a joke, and they're trying to wield power, and the people are tired of it. My heart goes out to the people of all these countries, of every country, because without them, you'd all be okay. You'd all be talking with each other. You'd all be okay. Remember that the problem is coming from them and not from the people, the average people. So please, please, please keep the peace among yourselves. Don't let the politicians divide you, because the more they divide you, the people, the more power they have. Don't let them divide you. I see families divided because you have different views. Please, as families, come together with your neighbors. Go out and say hello to your neighbors. Listen to people with opposing views, and get together with people, and don't fight against your own people. The problems are stemming from the politicians of the world. The old way of doing things is not working anymore, and they are getting scared. And so they're doing everything they can to hold on to their power. And it's getting violent because people are not listening anymore. People are fed up, especially the young people, especially the students and the young people and the youth of today. They're fed up with the way the world is run, and I don't blame them. I really don't blame you. So, but just please, please pick your battles. Don't fight with your own people who you could really win over to be on your side. So for what it's worth, I've been avoiding sharing my view because it has been so divisive that I don't like to take sides, one side or the other, but I do see that the problem is stemming from the politicians. It's not the problem. What saddens me is seeing the people being so divisive, because the problem hasn't come from you. It's come from the politicians. Their way is not working anymore. And so they are trying harder to wield their power. And the way that you can do it is by sticking, not the politicians, the way that the people can take their power back is by sticking together, not by dividing. So really that's my view. And the world is changing, and the old way does need to crumble for a new way to be born. It really does. So those are my 2 cents about what's happening in Hong Kong and everywhere else. And so now, I guess I just want to finish with, if you enjoyed today's video, please subscribe to my channels, to my Facebook, my YouTube, all of them. And please subscribe to my newsletter. You'll be kept informed of new videos and where I'll be speaking. The next couple of events coming up, I have a wonderful event coming up that I'm really excited about in Sedona with 2 of my dear friends, Manuel and Sunny. If you're in Sedona, please join me. That's at the end of May. And I'll be going to Canada in June in Ottawa. So please join me in Ottawa, where I will be sharing the stage with amazing people like Lynn McTaggart, who you heard me speak with during the week, and with Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden and all my friends like that. So please do join me at the events. Nothing like a live event meeting you. And until next week, have a wonderful week. Bye.
You can't end the show
Oops, yet. I forgot. Sorry, Danny. Over to you.
Well, no, I mean, did you want to tell them about your secret guests that are coming next week?
Yes, Emmanuel and Sunny are coming next week to join me on the Facebook Live. Yay! You'll love them. They're amazing if you don't know them already, but I'm sure you know them already. Everybody knows them.
And you told people to subscribe to your newsletter.
You have to do your thing, in your voice. I forgot. Sorry.
Ah, yes. Excuse me. If you enjoyed today's show, please remember to leave your comments below. Yeah, point below.
Oh.
If you enjoyed the show, please remember to leave your comments below, whether that's on YouTube or on Facebook. If you enjoyed the show and you'd like to subscribe to Anita's newsletter, go to Anita's website. That's www.anitamoorjani.com. Batteries are not included. Please go sign up for the newsletter. And if you have anything that you would like to send across for this show, i.e. photos or things that Anita asked about earlier, and you've forgotten the address, this is the address. cup@teawithanita. I think I'm pretty much done now.
And if you think Danny should have his own show, please write in and tell him. So tell him he needs to have his own show with that voice. Thank you all so much. See you next week. Bye.